Hello everyone, Mr. John here with our first low intermediate class lesson for the week. We're going to be practicing with Lesson 8, Housing. Last session we practiced with housing, so we're going to try it again, but this time from Burlington English. Now the first thing we're going to do is to show you again how to access Burlington English and how to access the lesson that we are going to be using. But we are going to be doing Lesson 8, Housing. Let's take a look now and see how we can access the lesson from our phones. Hopefully you have had a chance to look at our previous videos on how to access Burlington English from your phone. But we are going to run through that again here at the beginning of this lesson. First, we downloaded Burlington English onto our phone, and you can see it here on my phone. And you will enter your username and password in order to access the lesson. Now I'm going to use the account that I've been using in the video series just to demonstrate how to access the lessons. But remember, you will use your username and password to access Burlington English. Now remember, since we're practicing here away from school, we're going to click on Away from School. So remember, we're not practicing in school, we're practicing away from school. Now up here on the right hand side, you see where it says Courses. We're going to click on Courses there. Now in this particular level, we are practicing with low intermediate. So we're going to click on the low intermediate. And from there, we're clicking on Student Lessons. Now in this first week lesson, we're actually going to start with Lesson 8. So that is housing. That's what you see down here, housing. Okay? And there are many different activities that you can practice with during the week. I'm going to be making a couple of short videos regarding different lessons here in Lesson 8. And we're also going to be talking about it online. Now let's continue with our presentation in this first video. Now in this lesson, you're going to listen to a conversation about a rental apartment, and then you're going to role play a similar conversation. Now in the lesson, you will ask for information, and you will use expressions to express similar feelings. Now in order to get prepared for this first lesson, let's go ahead and start with a little get-ready activity. So for example, like we mentioned last session, what are some questions we need to know before we rent an apartment? Well, look at the examples we see here. For example, you might ask questions like, how big is the apartment? Or how many bedrooms does the apartment have? Now in the lesson, we're going to learn many different vocabulary words, many of which you've already learned in our previous session. But let's take a look at some vocabulary examples that we can do here in our first lesson. Okay? Now notice in our first lesson it says here we're going to learn some key vocabulary. So first, let's see if we can match the words up here to the top to the pictures that we see below. Let's say the words together. So repeat after me. Lobby, basement, bus stop, laundry room, washer and dryer, gas, electricity. Now take a moment and look at the screen. See if you can match, by looking at the screen, which word goes with which picture. Let's do the first one as an example. So for example, lobby. Which one would be the lobby? Well, the lobby is the place we usually find in the front part of an apartment building. So for example, we might find the lobby here in picture number 1. Now take a moment and look at the other pictures, and then we're going to check our answers. Pause the video now. When you are finished, return to the video and let's check our answers. Okay, now that you've paused the video, let's check our answers. So the next one, basement, would be maybe number 3. What about the bus stop? Perhaps number 4. Laundry room? Maybe you have a laundry room in your house or apartment. It could be number 2. But I also notice we have the choices of washer and dryer. Perhaps this is the washer and dryer. So notice we have 7 answers but only 6 pictures. Well, we'll see. Okay, what about gas? For example, in my house, I have gas for my heat. So this one perhaps? And then finally, electricity. Well, probably this one. Okay, now we're going to go to the next page. So notice we do have one more page and one more picture. Perhaps this one is the laundry room? Let's try it. Now let's show our answers. So if we go back, we notice that we were correct. Number 1 was the lobby. Number 2, the washer and dryer. Number 3 is the basement. Number 4 is the bus stop. Number 5, electricity. 6 is gas. And number 7 is the laundry room. Let's move on to our next presentation activity. Now in this activity, we're going to think about doing a little bit of reading. Now take a look at this particular screen. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit to see if we can see it a little bit better. Okay, I've zoomed in a little bit. Now we can see the screen a little bit better. Now in this first activity, here's some questions for you to think about. Let's take a look at each one. If you notice, we have a new vocabulary word that we're going to be learning in each sentence. I'm going to read the sentence, and I want you to think about the answer to yourself. Number 1, a tenant is a person who rents a home but doesn't own it. Are you a tenant, or do you own your own home? So at the moment, are you renting, or do you actually own your house? In this case, if you rent, you would be considered a tenant. Say that word with me, tenant. Okay, let's look at number 2. In apartment buildings, the apartments are called units. How many units are in the building you live in? When I lived in an apartment, there were easily over 100 units. So for example, in my particular situation, when I was renting, there were at least 100 units in my apartment building. Number 3. Some 2-bedroom apartments are 1,000 square feet. Now remember, feet are a little bit different from meters. So you might want to think about how would you indicate that information in meters. Well, for example, if we switch for just a moment, let's see if we can figure out how many feet. So for example, 1,000 square feet would be roughly 304 meters. So again, in your situation, how many square feet do you think maybe your house is? Or your home? Well, in my case, my house is pretty small. I would probably say that my particular house is probably around 800 to 900 square feet. So my house is actually pretty small. Now, in expensive cities like New York and San Francisco, the rents for apartments are very high. Now, in the city, maybe the city where you're from, where the rent's high, Cincinnati is not too expensive. I would say that probably most rents around here, depending on how big the place is probably anywhere from $800 to $1,000 a month. But that would depend on the size. You probably can find much cheaper. But that's probably a pretty average rental cost for a lot of places. Okay. Here's our final question. The tenants in some buildings get free internet and cable TV. Do you have cable TV or satellite? I know a lot of people today pretty much watch streaming services, such as Netflix or Hulu. What type of streaming service do you like to use? Do you use Netflix, Hulu, YouTube, something else? Those are some things to think about for this first lesson. Let's continue. Now, in this first activity, we're going to think about if we're renting an apartment, we can speak to a leasing agent in the apartment building. And the leasing agent can answer questions about the apartment and show it to you. For example, Jane is speaking to a leasing agent right now. So there's Jane. And she wants to know, what questions does she ask? In this particular activity, we're going to listen and we're going to choose the 7 correct answers. Let's listen.
I'm the leasing agent, Bob Green. Nice to meet you.
I'm Jane. Nice to meet you too.
I'm going to show you an apartment on the 2nd floor. It's a 2-bedroom apartment. It's one of our nicest units.
Can I ask you some questions about the building and the neighborhood before we go see it?
Sure. What would you like to know?
Are there any bus stops near this building? I don't have a car.
Yes, there are 2. The closest bus stop is across the street. There's another one on Ferry Street.
That's great for me.
What else would you like to know?
What about smoking? Is this a non-smoking building?
Well, there's no smoking in the lobby or in the elevator.
Good.
But tenants can smoke in their apartments.
That's okay. I don't have a problem with that. I also have a question about the rent. It's $870 a month, right?
Right.
Does the rent include utilities?
It includes electricity and water. Tenants pay for gas.
Okay. And do you offer free internet?
Internet and cable TV are included.
Great. What about pets? Are pets allowed? I'm asking because I'm allergic to dogs.
No, tenants can't have pets. It's against the rules.
Good. Now I have a question about laundry. Does each apartment come with a washer and dryer?
No, but there's a laundry room in the basement.
That's convenient. One more question. How big is the apartment you're taking me to see?
It's 850 square feet.
Great. You've answered all my questions.
Okay, then let's go see the apartment.
Okay, now that we've listened to the video, now look at the questions on the screen. Now, according to the instructions, what 7 particular questions did Jane ask in the discussion with the leasing agent? Take a look. Are there any bus stops near the building? Is this a non-smoking building? How many units are in this building? Does the rent include utilities? Do you offer free internet? Are pets allowed? Does each apartment come with a washer and dryer? Is there parking for tenants? How big is the apartment you're taking me to see? And finally, how old is this building? So, which 7 did you hear? Take a look. Pause the video and see if you can identify which ones she mentioned. When you're ready, return to the video. Okay, now let's check our answers. These are the 7 that she mentioned. Okay, we're going to do one more activity in this first presentation, and that is going to be a follow-up listening activity. Now, once again, in the video, or in the conversation, she asked some information, and there was some question here with each of these activities. What exactly was said? Now, we're going to play this part of the recording one more time. And then as you listen, see if you can identify which answers were said. Let's listen again.
I'm the leasing agent, Bob Green. Nice to meet you.
I'm Jane. Nice to meet you too.
I'm going to show you an apartment on the 2nd floor. It's a 2-bedroom apartment. It's one of our nicest units.
Can I ask you some questions about the building in the neighborhood before we go see it?
Sure. What would you like to know?
Are there any bus stops near this building? I don't have a car.
Yes, there are 2. The closest bus stop is across the street. There's another one on Ferry Street.
That's great for me.
What else would you like to know?
What about smoking? Is this a non-smoking building?
Well, there's no smoking in the lobby or in the elevator.
Good.
But tenants can smoke in their apartments.
That's okay. I don't have a problem with that. I also have a question about the rent. It's $870 a month, right?
Right.
Does the rent include utilities?
It includes electricity and water. Tenants pay for gas.
Okay. And do you offer free internet?
Internet and cable TV are included.
Great. What about pets? Are pets allowed? I'm asking because I'm allergic to dogs.
No, tenants can't have pets. It's against the rules.
Good. Now I have a question about laundry. Does each apartment come with a washer and dryer?
No, but there's a laundry room in the basement.
That's convenient. One more question. How big is the apartment you're taking me to see?
It's 850 square feet.
Great. You've answered all my questions.
Okay, then let's go see the apartment.
Now it's time to choose our answers. Once again, let's go through and show the correct answers. For number 1, there are or aren't bus stops near the building. In this case, there are. Number 2, people can smoke in the lobby or the apartments. If you said they're apartments, you're correct. Number 3, the rent is $870 or $817. If you said $870, congratulations. Number 4, the rent includes electricity and water, or does it include electricity and gas? Well, if you remember, he said that gas was not included. Number 5, tenants have to or don't have to pay for internet and cable TV. In this case, he said it was that those things were included in the rent. Number 6, tenants can or can't have pets. In this case, remember, he said they cannot have pets. And then finally, activity number 7, question number 7, there is a laundry room on each floor or in the basement. Do you remember? In this case, it's in the basement. Our last question, do you remember? Was it 850 square feet or 580? Yes, it was 850 square feet. A good size. So, thank you for watching this first introductory video. Now, when we get together in our online class, we're going to go through a couple more activities together, and then we will talk about some information in our online chat. Thanks for watching this video.